Houston. Hello.
Hello, Houston? Hello? Houston, I can see something on the horizon. Can you make it out?
Copy that, Mission Control. Give me a moment to make it out. Mission Control, it appears that people have been exploring new frontiers, learning about technology, innovation, and resourcefulness. We've seen a lot of traffic in the Knowledge Center with discussions happening at individual booths at the Ingerati studio stage.
Copy that, Houston. What else do you see?
Mission Control, it looks like people are discovering new value-added services and outcome-based solutions to help make the most of their systems, resources, and people. There has been a lot of talk about leak detection and pressure monitoring for water systems, about methane sensing and remote disconnect for natural gas, and active transformer management and detecting high impedance connections for electricity.
Copy that, Houston. Sounds like some insightful learning taking place. Can you look a little closer and let us know what else you see?
Mission Control, we see a solution that connects millions of devices and is a revolution in distributed intelligence, edge analytics, command and control capabilities, and multi-application open standards networking, one that delivers real-time solutions to today's challenges. It's called OpenWay Riva.
Houston, anything else you'd like to report?
Mission Control, apparently there was an out-of-this-world party. People and aliens from all walks of life coming together to celebrate.
Houston, it looks like a good time was had by all. Yet there is more to learn about.
Houston, it's time to begin the landing sequence and bring you home.
Mission Control, we have some new frontiers left to explore right here at home, and we definitely can learn more about how we can all be more resourceful. Mission Control, bring us home.
Hello, Houston. This is Odyssey. It's good to see you again.
Houston, thank you for coming to explore these new frontiers and more at Itron Utility Week 2017.
Houston, please welcome back to the stage my mom, Senior Vice President of the Network Solutions, Sherilyn Moore.
Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling.
Hello. I'm not sure about the rest of this, but weren't those kids amazing? So cute. I've been asked a little bit, and don't worry, we don't have child labor laws in action. The marketing team, we were kind enough to donate our kids. When we drop them off and leave them with our great, amazing multimedia team, we don't know what we're getting, so it's always a surprise. But don't they do a great job? Here's a round of applause to Itron's multimedia. All of that vision and all of that production is done in-house by our very own Itron creative team, so it's pretty impressive. Okay, well, good morning. Here we are. We're Tuesday. We got one day in the can. How did it go yesterday? Was it good? Good? All right. And Houston, did we have a party? How was it? Pretty good? Who had rocket fuel? Houston, who has a headache? Okay. All right, that's enough of my jokes. That's about all I'm good for. All right, well, here today, we're pretty excited. Our main line is we're fortunate enough to have an astronaut with us, so we're going to be getting to that in a moment. But before I do, we actually have an old friend back in town to talk with us a little bit. If you recall, 2 years ago, Itron announced a STEM curriculum, a resourcefulness curriculum, with Dr. Michael Weber of UT Austin. He's back with us today, and we thought we'd do a little check-in to talk a little bit about the curriculum, but also to talk about an issue that's near and dear to him and it's near and dear to us as well, around the energy-water nexus. So Dr. Michael Weber, would you mind joining me on stage? We have some nice seating.
Yeah, listen,
Nice music.
Very ambient music. Yeah, it's excellent.
Well, great. If I recall, it was 4 years ago that you were here and we talked about energy-water nexus, and you rattled more statistics off in your 40 to 50 minutes than I've ever seen done in my lifetime. So you've got that claim to fame.
Well, you're a data company. I gave a lot of data, so that was part of it. Yeah.
Yes, you did. Well, in light of Hurricane Harvey and what we've seen here in Houston, but also Irma, Maria, tell us a little bit about what you've been seeing in light of energy-water nexus issues and what's been going on.
Sure. So one of the things I talked about years ago in Orlando is how energy and water are so interdependent. Energy uses water and water uses energy, and this interdependence can be a good thing, but also invites vulnerabilities where a constraint in one becomes a constraint in the other. And the examples recently with all these natural disasters are a little bit different. With Harvey here, which hit, and I'm from Austin, so we were close to it, but didn't get hit as hard, it was a water event. There was a lot of water that fell out of the sky. The number's like 34 trillion gallons of water came out of the sky. And by the way, that's like $4 per 1,000 gallons for water. So it's like $136 billion of money fell out of the sky and did about $136 billion of damage, which is one way to think about it.
Incredible.
And it took out a lot of refining capability on the ground. It wiped out about 500,000 cars in the biggest incident of automobile destruction in human history. And so it affected the energy sector pretty dramatically. But it didn't really hurt the power sector the way a lot of people thought it would, because it was a rain event, not a wind event. And then you have Irma and Maria, which were more of a wind event, and they took out the power in Florida and Puerto Rico. And so there are different issues with these natural disasters, but they expose some of this vulnerability, I think. And Puerto Rico is a real crisis right now. I'm not sure you're following the news, but it's an energy problem. They don't have electricity. And if you don't have electricity, you don't have food preservation. You also don't have water treatment if you don't have electricity. So there's a lot of people who don't have access to water right now. And that's where the energy-water nexus is really problematic, I think. It's a real challenge for us. And I think looking forward, there are a lot of different solutions we could think about. We could think about designing our systems to be more resilient, more robust. And then we think about the role of technology and data and more information. We have more data today than we did 20 years ago, and that helps bring the whole system back online more quickly, makes it more resilient, makes it more responsive. And then looking to the future, I think there's going to be more role for that, more sensors, more information about the status of things. And so as you look at these open data platforms, things like that, I think it's going to help not just with the environmental impact and reducing costs, but will help with resilience. So these natural disasters are a test of that, and the data coming in is like, it's helpful so far. We need more of that.
Absolutely. Scott Prohaska was here yesterday from Centerpoint and Kenny Mercado, and the amount of change in their ability to recover in light of their real-time systems and advanced meters were tremendous help.
Yeah, in real time they can see exactly who's out and who has power or not, and who needs the most critical help first, that kind of thing. That's very important for first response.
Absolutely. Well, another topic, 2 years ago, we talked about our STEM curriculum. And in fact, I think we're waiting. Are our students here yet? Have they been able to make it? I think they're going to be back in that corner. I think we're still waiting on them. But we actually have students from the Energy Institute High School that's here in, I think it's East Downtown Houston. They are a magnet school, and they're focused on STEM curriculum. And what I understand is they're going to be one of our first schools adopting the resourcefulness curriculum that we worked on. Tell us about that.
That's right. So one of my personal passions is the relationship of energy and water, like we talked about. Another one of my passions is educating people, and these come together with this curriculum. And then I was sort of pleased to discover and become friends with Itron and partner with you 4 or 5 years ago, and you have the same passions. So we decided to work together on developing a curriculum that we can get into the hands of students. And this is actually available around the world, and people have adopted it around the world. But at the Energy Institute High School here in Houston, they've adopted it in larger numbers, in a more intentional way. They're trying to use it in the classroom for project-based learning. It's an incredible school. They've got 700 students today. They'll have 1,000 students next year, so they're growing quickly, and they have a new campus we got to tour yesterday. And they're very experiential with their learning, very project-based. And so to have an interactive curriculum that is digitally dispensed, that is up to date, that is more natural for the way they learn, these are all digital natives, is hopefully, I think, a step in the right direction in terms of improving the quality of the content that they'll use to learn with energy and water. They'll take that and they'll build projects around it, and thankfully we'll have them available as future employees or problem solvers for world's challenges. So I think it's really exciting to work with Itron on that, and also to have them adopt it, and they're very excited about it. The teachers are excited about having curriculum on topics they care about, but also in a fun, interactive way that is different than a typical book. So they're a great partner to have on that, and then the students said they like it. We'll see what they say later when they're here.
I think there is something magical about creating curriculum and the public-private partnership coming together to create higher quality curriculum to get our next generation of leaders into our field so that we can replace some of those lost workers that we were talking about that are aging out of our workforce. So,
yeah, you have a crisis looming for your
Yep.
pipeline of talent. How do you solve that? And government's role is changing in education, so corporations are stepping up and say, well, we need people with certain capabilities, and planning for the future, I think, is a smart thing to do.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to continuing to work with you
Yeah.
on all of that. Transitioning to maybe one more topic. You and I have talked a few times. We've been in Aspen together, and your work as a professor at UT Austin, you mentor students every day, but you've also been mentored. And in fact, there's a connection to you and being mentored that has to do with NASA.
Yes.
And in light of our keynote today, I thought maybe you should tell that story.
Okay, it's a funny story, but I'll share it. It might go long, so my apologies in advance for that. But I don't know if
good.
any of you had this situation I had in high school where I was a very good student in high school. I thought high school was easier. It was easy for me. High school is much harder today than it was when I was there. And it came to me naturally, and I did very well. And I left high school pretty much convinced of my brilliance. Like, I was convinced I was a genius. And thank you for laughing, because I was... And I placed out of like a year of multivariable calculus or something. I don't know. I took the AP exam, did very well, and life was easy, and aren't I smart? And I walk into the University of Texas at Austin. I'm an aerospace engineering student because I want to work on the space program. Very excited about space exploration. I didn't want to be an astronaut because I'm afraid of roller coasters and things like that, but I thought I could be good for the space program. So I go to aerospace engineering at the University of Texas, and I'm convinced I'm brilliant. I place out a year of calculus, and I'm put into multivariable honors calculus for geniuses or something like this. And I go to the class, and it's a small class. Instead of the usual 100-person class, there's 20 people in the class. And I don't study for the first exam, which is a review of high school, and I make 100 without studying. So I have one more data point that
Clearly.
I'm brilliant. Yeah,
Yes.
this guy, campus, I've arrived, right? So here I am. And then on the next exam, I use the same strategy, which is to not study, and I get like a 71, and I'm not used to the 7 being in the front, which I thought was kind of funny. And then I tried the same approach on the third exam. I got a 44 with a 20-point curve. Like, I'm just in free fall at this point. And I basically flame out in this class pretty badly. But this is a class for geniuses, so the professor doesn't know what to do. Gives me a gentleman's C. I mean, I earned an F, but he gave me a C because he's like, we don't give Fs in this class. Like, what do we do with you? And I proceeded to do the same thing for a full 2 years. I'm just kind of not doing my homework, not really studying. I keep thinking I can skate by, and I'm not failing out of the university, but I'm really not performing the way I should be. Well, at the same time, I'm in the marching band, the Longhorn Band. I don't know if there are any University of Texas people in the Longhorn Band. And I was very active with the Longhorn Band. And our chancellor at the time, Dr. Hans Mark, invited the Longhorn Band over. Now, Dr. Hans Mark, I should back up. He's the chancellor of the University of Texas system. There are 15 campuses. Each campus has a president. Each president reports to the chancellor. So he's a god of higher education in Texas. And before that, he was deputy director of NASA. He had run the space shuttle program. So he left NASA to come to UT, and he's running the program, and he discovered black holes, and his dad invented plastic. So this is like an incredible intellectual family. He's a very tall man. He's an intellectual giant. He is an aerospace engineering giant, a space exploration, space program giant. And the chancellor invites the entire Longhorn Band over to his house. And there's like 350 people, and the cheerleaders and the drill team. And he says, no one thanks the band. Everybody thanks the football team, but the band puts in as many hours as the football team. I want to thank the band and the drill team and cheerleaders. Come on over for dinner. And you don't have to sing or perform or do backflips. Just eat dinner and leave. I just want to say thank you. So we all, 350 of us, cram into his backyard. We have barbecue, and then we go. And this is my end of the spring semester of my sophomore year. And my GPA is in free fall, and I'm figuring out my career, and I'm thinking of dropping out of engineering. I write him a note the next day. Thank you for thanking the band. No one thanks the band. I really appreciate that. By the way, I'm a pretty bad student, and I could use some advice. And I looking back, like maybe not the best opening to a letter, but anyway, I thanked him, and I said, I'm an aerospace engineering student. I love space exploration. I want to get involved, but I'm not really doing well. I'm thinking of dropping out and becoming a poet or something. I don't know what I was going to do. I was going to go some other
Marching
direction.
band full-time.
Marching band full-time.
Yeah.
I'll be a band director. Except you have to have talent for that, and I didn't. Yes.
Darn it.
Life is difficult sometimes. So I wrote this letter to him, just basically a call for help. And then I got a call the next day from his secretary saying, the chancellor wants to meet with you. I'm like, holy cow. So I went and bought a shirt with buttons, and I don't know if you had and I had to work. And then
Okay.
it might be him talking to me right now. And then tuck the shirt in and go. I had to rip the tags off as I'm walking to his office. And he's got this incredible office of high ceilings, oak panels, and I come in and sit down, and he gives me an hour. Now, this is a man in charge of like 150,000 students, and he gave me an hour of his time. And he says, what's going on? How can I help? Why aren't you doing well? Tell me your story. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just not really studying. I'm not really motivated. I'm not enjoying the material. Maybe I want to focus on liberal arts or something else. And he said, you know what? Stick with it. You need to stick with it. And he says, what you need? You need experience. You need a job. I said, well, I would love that. He says, hang on. And he calls NASA. He calls Bruce Murray. If you're in the space program, you know Bruce Murray at JPL, the Jet Propulsion Lab in California. Hey, Bruce, I've got a student here. He's an A-B student, which was actually true because I had A's and B's and C's. He just didn't mention all of it. Yeah, I've got an A-B student here. And he kind of looks at me like, you owe me one. Like, okay, I'm with you. And then he says he needs a job for the summer. And he's like, well, we don't have one this summer, but I can help you next summer. He called NASA Ames. It is in the Bay Area, and he called them and got me a job. They had something called SURF, Summer Undergraduate Research Fellowship. And he called them up and said, I got a student here who needs a job. And they said, okay, we got it. We got a job, and it paid like $8 an hour. I'm like, $8 an hour,
Wow.
I'm in. So I got a job at NASA Ames. And I went out there for the summer working on supersonic combustion ramjet engines. These are supersonic engines that were for what they called the Orient Express, a plane that would get to Asia in a couple hours, flying at supersonic speeds. And we were building real systems in the same testbed they used for Apollo re-entry in the 1960s. And we had lasers and all sorts of things. It was just awesome. And I fell in love with engineering again and turned my life around. I got basically perfect grades after that. I focused, I did my homework, and I did another summer at NASA, met some people I worked with who were at Stanford University just up the road, ended up going to Stanford for my PhD, and it made a huge difference. So a mentor stepping in for 1 hour turned my life around, and I'm still getting benefit decades later. He wrote the letters I needed to get a fellowship. I got a fellowship for graduate school. He wrote letters I needed to get into graduate school. When I went to my first job out of graduate school, the founder knew him because he was in the National Academy of Engineering, another National Academy member. Said, oh, I know Hans Mark, and they hired me. Then I went to a think tank that knew him. Then it was time for me to come home to University of Texas. He helped bring me home. We still get dinner every once in a while. He's still alive and doing well. And I've asked him recently, I said, you have helped me so much. Why do you continue to help me? And he said, well, I had 350 people over to my house for dinner, and exactly one person wrote a thank you note. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm getting so much mileage today from taking half an hour decades ago to write a thank you note. And I hope he's getting mileage from spending that hour with me. And so it's good for the mentor and good for the mentee. And it's really changed my life and made a difference.
Wow.
Bringing it full circle, my final project at Stanford for my PhD work was here at NASA Johnson Space Center, working on the bioreactors I use to turn the urine, hand washing, and sweat from astronauts in the space station into drinking water. I worked on that project. It's now flight rated and up in space. So it all came together. One intervention made a big difference. I think also one cry for help made a big difference. And it's really paid off for me and hopefully been good for people around me as well. I'm trying to pass that on to my students. Something for everyone in the room to keep in mind.
Incredible.
I think.
Yeah, great moral of the story. We will have students from our Energy Institute. They've got projects that they're going to share, so I think they're going to be out in the foyer area. So I encourage you, maybe you could be a mentor to one of these students. And another moral of the story is write your thank you notes.
Yeah, write your thank you notes, yeah.
Absolutely incredible. So
Great.
with that,
Great.
maybe we should leave a little room for our astronaut.
That sounds great.
Does that sound
Thank you.
good?
Yeah, thank
All
you
right.
very much, Caroline.
Thank you,
Take care.
Michael.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.